I caught myself slipping in the worst of ways. Before we dive into the topic, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd also like to give a shout out to geminspectorllc. Check me out at geminspector.com for all your pre-grading needs. I am pre-grading cards for both businesses and collectors. I offer pre-grading notes at the $5 tier, which is something that no grading company is offering at any reasonable rate at this time. So check me out again at geminspector.com. With no further ado, I messed up big time. I'm a person who values my time much like you do. I like to wake up early in the morning so I have the most amount of hours in my day to do meaningful things, to spend time with my family, to get tasks checked off the to-do list, and make something happen. Again, much like you, I'm sure. With that said, I recently had the privilege of being on the Slab podcast with Professor Oak and Sealed Shiz Consignments, and I was on that podcast until about 11 p.m., after I got around for bed and stuff. It was nearly midnight, and I woke up at 5 a.m. the next day. Some people have it worse, but I was feeling pretty tired. I've got a couple sick kids at home too, so it's just been a grind the last couple of days. And I rolled out of bed, turned off my alarm, and I let myself think this thought. I thought to myself, man, I hope I don't have a lot of orders to pack. And then those words just kind of like sat in the air for a moment, and I realized what an absolute ridiculous thing to say and think and feel. And here's why. The implication of saying that is, oh man, I hope not that many people put $5 bills in my bank account while I was sleeping. I hope I didn't get anyone's $10 bills while I was asleep last night. What am I talking about? How foolish, how broken of a thought is that, right? We have this amazing machine called eBay where you can literally print money by doing very little work. All you have to do is source some cards, make high quality listings, make sure those cards are packaged safely, and put a 4x6 shipping label on them. That's it. How dare I have the audacity to say, I hope that doesn't have to occur today, right? So after I realized how ridiculous it was, I went down into my office and I packaged my 10, 12 listings or whatever it was for the day that sold. And it took me a total of about 20 minutes. Because I've done all the back end work to make it as easy and painless for myself as possible. And so my proposition to you is that most of the people that you and I know in our daily lives that limit themselves and edge out their opportunity to be successful, it comes from that same place. You've probably heard this. You've probably heard someone that you know and love and maybe even respect say something like, oh man, I'd love to do that, but I'm just too busy. Oh, I meant to do this, but I was just so tired last night. And it's like, guys, believe me when I say that all the successful people that I've had the privilege of knowing and talking to and learning from, they're all busy and exhausted a fair amount of the time. They just don't let it stop them from doing the stuff that makes sense to do. And so, without running the risk of saying all this like hustle culture stuff that kind of makes people a little bit triggered sometimes, it's like, guys, there's something to it though. There's something to just being the person who does the jobs that make sense to do at any given time, right? It kind of comes from the same place in the Pokemon market in general, where it's like, all the people that say they're going to buy out a card if it goes below X price or whatever, well, it's like, whether or not that's always a good idea, I'm not going to speak on. But the fact of the matter remains is like, if you have identified that something is a good idea, well, you probably ought to do that, right? Like, that's just kind of what makes sense. But it's like, not everybody does. And so you can position yourself to be successful by just being one of the people who actually does the thing that they say they're going to do, right? You're going to be more successful if you start an eBay store and actually put the listings up. You're going to be more successful if you are like comping out collections to buy and then actually submit the payment to the seller. You're going to be more successful if you go to the card show and buy the items or sell the items. It's like the barrier to entry to doing all this stuff is actually pretty low. It just takes some commitment and discipline. And I caught myself, and I'm ashamed to say it, thinking that broken thought. And so I want you to consider a time, as your life unfolds and as you're pursuing a successful business, and I know you are, don't let yourself think that. Don't let yourself think that weak thought of, oh man, I hope that somebody didn't give me a whole bunch of money while I was sleeping, or I hope that someone doesn't give me a whole bunch of money while I'm grocery shopping or working at my day job or whatever. It's like, guys, we're doing something really cool here. Like, it is possible to make money by looking at the cards that you enjoy having in your possession. It's like, we get to interact with interesting people all the time and make deals happen with them. And we get to learn from some extraordinary people who've done impressive things. And so to not utilize that to the full extent possible is so foolish. And so don't be one of those people who doesn't get the job done just because you're feeling tired. Because, and here's a cool message, right? Like, if you grew up in the early 2000s, late 90s, you probably read a choose your own adventure book. Well, what if I told you that your story has two choices, right? You can either turn to page 35 and, be a person who's exhausted and busy with no money, or you can turn to page 87 and finish the story out somebody who's exhausted and tired, but has more money than they did previously. And I don't think anyone's choosing that first storyline because the ending sucks, period. It's just, you flip to that page and it's a little sad paragraph and that's the end of it, right? But if you turn to page 87, well, the story goes on for a little while. And I'm betting that the story turns out pretty cool. And so with that said, it's like, again, this is all pretty common sense stuff. I kind of firmly believe that everything I say on this channel is relatively common sense, but it's like a lot of people have common sense. A lot of people have very good ideas that could lead them down some very fruitful paths, but it's just the difference between the people who make it fruitful or not is just a matter of whether they do the stuff or don't do the stuff. And so my advice to you today is do the stuff, right? Don't let your temporary feelings override the outcome that you desire. If you want to be successful and you have an idea that is functionally possible to become successful with, then do the thing. Even if it means that you're packing labels when you're tired. Even if it means that you're busy in the mornings and busy in the evenings. Because it's worth it. And you just have to make that proposition with yourself. It's worth it, right? Fulfilling those orders and getting positive feedbacks and boosting your eBay store and continuing to grow and make money is way better than hitting the snooze button 25 times and doom scrolling on TikTok. You know that, I know that, so let's get it done. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.